Jacob had just sent messengers ahead to see Esau in the land of Edom. Esau had gone and conquered the tribes that were in Seir, that's what it was called, which was later named Edom because of Esau. His name was also Edom, meaning red. But he sent messengers, and now we have the messengers returned. Let's unpack what this really says and see what we can get out of it. Genesis 32, 6-10. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to thy brother Esau, and also he comes to meet you, and 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks and herds and the camels into 2 bands, and said, if Esau come to the one company and smite it, then the other company which is left shall escape. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, the Lord which saidst unto me, return unto thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which thou hast shown unto thy servant, for with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I'm become 2 bands. See, back in verse 3, Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau. Isn't that right? That's right. His brother in the land of Seir. So in the end of this that previous study, it was suggested that after having actually seen angels, any fear that Jacob would have of Esau would be totally irrational. He actually saw angels. I'll tell you something, if I actually saw angels, I'd be afraid of nothing. But you see, now to show his irrationality, guess what happened? He sent messengers. Okay, the messengers returned to Jacob. See, now after they had delivered their message from Jacob, if Esau were so intent on killing him, would he have allowed the messengers to return? Think about that one. The messengers returned in good spirits from Esau, even though Esau was going to bring 400 men. Now, furthermore, we read also he comes to meet you, and 400 men with him. The messengers appeared not to be worried at all, implying he comes to meet you and pay a friendly visit. It does not appear that Esau in this meeting had any hostile intentions, but was really coming with a company of his servants or tribe to honor his brother. If he had any contrary intention, God had removed it, and the angelic host which Jacob met with before might have inspired him into sufficient confidence in God's protection. Did he have that confidence in God's protection? See, Jacob received the news that Esau was coming with 400 men differently. It says here, Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. Though he was comforted by angels, yet he panicked. God had just promised him again and again that he would be with him and keep him and protect him and return him safely to the land of Canaan. Still, Jacob lacked faith. It was almost like he was in clinical depression. We read in the Old Testament about others who were so irrationally afraid. Consider Elijah. And there were other people. You see, now Jacob's strategy, just in case Esau was out to get him, was to divide the people that were with him and the flocks and the herds and the camels into two separate bands. Now, if Esau slaughtered the first company, then the other company which is left would escape. That was his plan. There was basically two problems with this plan. First problem was, where would they flee to if they ran the second band? And the second big problem was, how could they hope to get out of the reach of 400 marauding men pursuing them, supposedly led by a murderous, vengeance-seeking Esau? This whole plan stunk. And suddenly Jacob came to his senses. He must have seen how futile his silly plan really was. So, finally, after returning to his senses, he did what he should have done in the first place. Jacob prayed. Now, I'd like to read that prayer to you. That prayer goes into our next lesson as well. It says this: O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, the Lord which has said to me, return to your country and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with you. Father, I am not worthy of the least of all these mercies, O God, and of all the truth which thou hast shown unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I'm become two bands of people. Deliver me, I pray thee, God, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me and the mother of my children with the children. And thou saidst, I will surely do thee good and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. That was his full prayer, which ended in verse 12. You know, that's what Jacob should have done to begin with. Pray. His prayer was remarkable. It was simple, and it had lots of energy in it. And it could be considered a model prayer for all of us. That prayer had 5 components, 5 essential components. Number one, he had a deep, humble abasement. He said, I am not worthy. It reminds me of Paul when he said, I am the least of all the disciples. It was humble. And he knew what his worth was. Number two, it magnified God's mercy. He recognized God's mercifulness. Number three, it was a depreciation of the evil to which he was exposed. He turned himself immune to the evil to which he was exposed. Number four, he was pleading the promises that God made to him. Folks, that is incredible. Shouldn't we do the same thing? We have here the Bible. And we can pray through God's promises. And that's what he did. And number five, Jacob took encouragement from what God had already done in his life. If you thought about it, you'd recognize that God did so much in your life as well. So isn't that what we should be doing when faced with seemingly impossible odds stacked against us? Instead of wallowing in self-pity, do the most sensible thing. And I'm speaking to myself as well. Pray. Pray as if your life depended on it, because most of the time it really does. Pray expecting answers. Folks, I've experienced it myself. And so was Jacob about to experience it. There definitely is power in prayer.